Only one car showed up and straight up flipped the script on how long a vehicle is supposed to last: the Mercedes-Benz W123. Engineered between 1976 and 1985, this beast was built on rock-solid tech and a reinforced frame that could handle some serious beating. The diesel versions, specifically the 240 diesel and the 300 diesel, were absolute legends, clocking over 500,000 kilometers without any major meltdowns. Because of that, the W123 became a mechanical icon that stays alive for decades, totally paving the way for the E-Class and S-Class success later on. So what's the secret behind this legendary durability? The engineers at Mercedes-Benz relied on a high-strength steel chassis, specifically designed to soak up impacts without deforming easily. They also used precision electric welding at high stress points, basically turning the car into a mobile fortress. That reinforced structure has survived the roughest roads in Africa and the toughest deserts in the Middle East for entire decades. Then you've got those legendary diesel engines, especially the 2.4-litre and the 3.0-litre. These engines were built with heavy-duty cast-iron blocks and way fewer moving parts compared to gasoline engines. For example, they didn't use some complicated electronic injection system. Instead, they relied on a super simple mechanical injection pump. Because of that, electrical glitches were basically non-existent, and these engines lived for over 1 million kilometers in some documented cases. Also, the cooling system in the W123 was way ahead of its time. The radiator was crafted from thick brass instead of thin aluminum. On top of that, the car was decked out with a cooling fan featuring heavy-duty thermal couplings that only kick in when needed. So even if the engine temp spikes out of nowhere, this system handles the pressure without cracking or leaking, keeping that engine purring for thousands of hours. And when it comes to the transmission, it was simple yet massive at the same time. It offered a 5-speed manual gearbox and another automatic with 3 or 4 speeds. That manual gearbox was packed with double-thick gears made of solid nickel-chrome steel. As a result, it hardly ever needed any maintenance even after 300,000 kilometers. This design is exactly why European taxi drivers wouldn't settle for anything else. And check out the suspension. The W123 rocked a unique double wishbone setup in the front and a solid rear axle with trailing arms. This layout kept the car planted and steady, even on gravel or through the mud. For real, the suspension joints were sealed tight against dust and water, which totally stretched their lifespan in sandy environments. Those joints don't even need constant greasing. They just hold up for years without making a single squeak. Then you've got the interior, which is basically a masterclass in timeless simplicity. The seat upholstery was made from super thick fabric or leather with double stitching that can handle decades of people sitting in them. Plus, the control buttons were designed from rock-solid plastic, not that thin, flimsy stuff. Because of that, you can find W123s today with seats that are still perfect and buttons that work like they just rolled off the factory floor a week ago. And the braking system was seriously ahead of its time. Back in 1978, anti-lock brakes, ABS, became an option on the W123. This system stops the wheels from locking up during hard braking, so the driver stays in total control of the steering. If the car starts sliding on a wet road, the brakes literally pulse automatically like 15 times a second. This innovation made the W123 one of the very first cars in its class to rock that kind of tech. And check out the passive safety. It was way ahead of the curve too, thanks to that front and rear crumple zone tech. This body was designed to fold up gradually during a crash, soaking up all that impact energy instead of slamming it into the cabin. On top of that, the car came with a collapsible steering column to protect the driver's chest in a head-on collision. These features made the W123 insanely safe, like nothing anyone had ever seen back in the 70s. So what about the fuel economy? The diesel versions of the W123 were actually shockingly efficient. The 2.4-litre engine only sips about 7 to 8 litres per 100 kilometers on the highway, while the 3.0-litre engine burns around 8 to 9 litres under the same conditions. That's a total win, even by today's standards. Honestly, plenty of mid-sized modern cars consume basically the same amount, even with decades of tech evolution. And let's talk about how easy it was to fix. That was definitely this car's secret weapon. The engine bay was designed to be super spacious, with all the main parts like the injection pump and the alternator tucked right where you could reach them. A regular mechanic could swap out oil and air sensors without even lifting the car, or tearing half the engine apart. This engineering simplicity meant that a technician in some remote village could literally fix the W123 with a rock and a basic screwdriver. And honestly, that's exactly what happened in so many places. As for the exterior design, those straight lines and that wide front grille were a totally deliberate move, not just some random fluke. That simple design actually cut down on spots where dirt and rust could build up. Plus, those twin round headlights were crafted from thick glass that can handle thermal shock. So even if the car goes from freezing cold to blistering heat, the lights won't crack. Because of that, a ton of W123s out there are still rocking their original headlights after 40 years. Rust protection was also a massive focus back at the factory. The company literally dunked the entire chassis into vats of liquid zinc before painting, a process called hot dip galvanizing. This metallic coating blocks water and oxygen from ever reaching the steel. On top of that, Mercedes used a special wax sealant inside all those hidden cavities. That's why you'll see a W123 in humid coastal areas looking totally solid, while other cars would have completely rotted away in just a single decade. If you travel to places like Morocco, Turkey, or Pakistan today, you'll still see thousands of W123s grinding it out as daily taxis. The fact that it's so easy to find spare parts, even used ones, has basically made this car immortal. Plus, many of these rides have only had their engines swapped once or twice in half a century. That means the chassis itself is so solid it can take on different engines without any major tweaks. Honestly, the W123 was a car designed to be passed down to your grandkids, not to end up in some junkyard. And that's how we wrap up this epic mechanical saga. The W123 totally proved that real-deal durability comes from smart simplicity, not from a bunch of complicated electronics. This car was literally the foundation that Mercedes built its global reputation on back in the 80s. I mean, the whole E-Class and S-Class fam that came after it inherited that same built-to-last philosophy. Because of all that, the W123 stands as a timeless icon, proudly defying time on roads all over the world.